S&M. All right, welcome everybody. This is the S&M podcast show. I'm your host, Ricky Romance, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Chris Dages. Chris Dages, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you very much for bringing me on.
Well, I appreciate you accepting my request and coming on here and kind of giving myself and the audience a little bit of who you are and what you do. So yeah, tell us about yourself. Where you're from, who you are, what happened, and what led you to what you're doing now professionally and in life.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot in that short time frame. I'm 39 years old, grew up in Southern California, mostly Orange County, kind of bounced around the Southern California basin between Long Beach, Lakewood, Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley. Like many kids down there, parents were divorced in the 90s, so a lot of bouncing around. Went to a few different high schools down there until I realized that about 18, 19, I was kind of done with the whole big city thing. Moved to Mammoth Mountain about 6 months after high school graduation. Spent a winter there, almost a whole winter. Got in trouble a little bit there, got booted out of Mammoth Mountain for the winter. Came back
Okay.
down to SoCal for a year, did my first attempt at college. Realized quickly that I wasn't into it at the time, and then moved to Lake Tahoe shortly after. And I spent 17 years in Lake Tahoe, pretty much from 20 to 37 years old, snowboarding, going back to college, just kind of having a good time, enjoying the fresh mountain air. And now I found myself back down in the smaller city in Reno, Nevada, just enjoying some of the nice Nevada laws and tax breaks for not having state income tax and whatnot, and just kind of seeing how everything goes right now. I think a lot of us are in a state of just kind of uncertainty. So as for now,
Oh
holding
yeah.
tight and enjoying what I have and who I have as friends and family, and just seeing how things go from here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty going on. Um, every day we're trying to get through it, and we're wondering, hey, what's going to happen the next day? With everything that's going on politically, emotionally, physically, with family. Yeah, it's hard. It's been hard, and hopefully 2021 is a lot better than last year. Um,
Yeah, it's
you know,
definitely been tough. It's hard to understand what news we're getting is actually legitimate, what stories we hear are actually can be actually verified. There's so many different narratives these days, so we're all just most of us just hanging in there and seeing how things goes. And you invited me on your show to talk about my book a little bit, and I can lead into that if you want me to, or we can keep chatting on some things. But the book
uh,
that I wrote, it's definitely business focused, and it does go on
okay.
to a lot of it's about just personal framework and personal approach to life, and how a lot of what we see and hear is just story or kind of make believe in our mind, and it's hard to really filter out with ourselves, with our family, our network, society, the news, what's real and what's not,
Mhm.
and how can we get underneath that and live in the moment daily, and make the best of ourselves.
Okay, and your book, it's called Founder's Footing, correct?
Correct. Yep. Founder's
Okay.
footing.
Now, is that book already out?
No, it's in publishing right now.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
do you have a set date as far as when it will be coming out, or not
Looking at
yet?
late spring, early summer for release.
Okay, so
Yeah.
pretty soon then.
Yeah, it's fully done. I'm getting peer review feedback right now, some editing done, the graphics for the front page, and then working with publishers and publishing consultants to choose the right path in terms of my launch. But it's done, and I've had some great feedback so far. It's something I've been working on for about 4 years now, and then just in the
Okay.
last year, it all kind of came together. And I'm looking forward to it. The feedback's been great so far, so I'm pretty excited.
Wow. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get a copy of that. You're gonna have to let me know where I can get it. It's gonna be sold in stores like Barnes and Nobles, online, Amazon.
Definitely Amazon, definitely the online channels for sure. They seem to be the easiest to break into. Barnes and Nobles, I might need a larger publisher, might need some good reviews and feedback for a few months to see how well the book's received. But I have ideas for a second and third book already. I have an idea for a
Wow.
screenplay that I based off of a certain period in my time in Lake Tahoe that I think is definitely movie worthy. A little
Okay.
2 year instance that I had in Lake Tahoe. So I have ideas for more books. I want to take this seriously. A big part of me wants to self publish because that's fairly common and fairly easy, and you can save a lot of money. But at the same time, it's like if you're going to do it right, do it thoroughly, do it well.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm going back and forth between publishers, comparing what they offer, what their costs are, and just the pros and the cons to that. But I'm looking forward to it either way. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Hey, and if you ever if it's good enough to where a movie's coming out, based on your book, hey, promise me a pie. I don't care if it's an extra or whatever, as long as I'm in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
the book is focused on entrepreneurial leadership, essentially team
okay,
building for entrepreneurs and founders. So many times we look at the hard skills, so to speak. The price, selling it, the manufacturing cost, all the numbers, the empirical stuff, to make sure we can make the business work. Right, we have the profit margins, we have the right sales price, we can get paid.
right.
But so many founders overlook the soft skills, the team building skills, and that's so important in the startup phases of a company, because you kind of set the trajectory of the corporation early on, and most people
Mm.
don't even know it. I had no idea myself until I started being an entrepreneur and building teams, and it's really a critical part that's so easily overlooked.
Because I know right now watching this, the audience, they're probably thinking, okay, what do you do? Because we just went straight into your book that's coming out.
Yeah.
So let's explain to myself and everybody else as far as what you currently do at the moment.
Currently, I co-own a manufacturing company here in Reno, Nevada. We work
Okay,
in the firearms industry, so we deal with a lot of FBI accounts, law enforcement accounts, things like that. So because
nice.
of that, I'm going to leave the company name off the table right now, but we do work in
Okay.
manufacturing. Before that, I was actually in the cannabis industry quite a bit.
Mm,
Growing up in Southern California, born in '81, the scene down there is
for
pretty much
sure.
as hot as it gets. So all throughout high school and then through my 20s, I was heavily involved in the cannabis industry. Then, couldn't get the licensing needed about 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and then started my buddy with his corporation that he had just founded down here. That's manufacturing. So I've been in production for the last 17 years to some extent, and now I'm in manufacturing. So we produce
Mm,
mostly plastic-based goods, injection molding, thermoforming, for
okay.
accessories in the law enforcement industry, civilian firearm carry industry, and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I have a few firearms as well myself.
Yeah.
So maybe later on we can go ahead and talk a little bit about that, and for personal reasons. But anyways,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's
critical.
interesting. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, are you involved in any way as far as trading?
yeah, it's actually
Okay.
kind of taken over. My manufacturing company is quite successful. Not by any means like we're millionaires. We make a modest living because it is a startup still and it's still high growth. And
Mm-hmm.
I got into trading. I've been trading stocks for about 15 years, really amateurishly. And
Okay.
then just in 2017, I actually had a little falling out with my business partner in this manufacturing company about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And then right after I kind of stepped away to do, I actually started the CBD company after that, which failed. But in that time frame, I had gotten to crypto and Bitcoin trading, and I rode the entire 2017 rally up. Had like 80, $90,000 in profit. Didn't lock it in and gave back like 60,000 of it. And ever since then, I've been really focusing on trading and going into finance and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Being an entrepreneur. I mean, you're not gonna succeed on the first try. You're gonna have failures. You're gonna have to kind of see what works, what doesn't work, right? Move forward, come up with something new, more innovative, and
tough.
usually, after the third, maybe the fourth time of failing, you kind of you get to where you need to be, and then you start smooth sailing. Of course, you're gonna have your ups and downs, right?
For
But that's how
sure.
you learn, and
Yeah.
then you apply those mistakes, kind of find out what doesn't work, move on to what does work, and apply it.
Yeah, definitely. And when people start businesses, they have kind of like the home run mentality where you start a business, whatever it is, selling X, Y, or Z or some kind of service, and then in 5, 10 years it blows up and you're a millionaire. And that's rarely the case. And I found out you got to celebrate the little wins. It's the little wins that keep you motivated because you're,
Right.
for the most part, constantly getting hammered down. Starting a business of any kind, there's so much
Oh
rejection
yeah.
and there's so much. It's so problematic to break into the market. So every little win is really that's what keeps me going. But between, like I said, I stepped away from my manufacturing company in 2017. Started the CBD company. Didn't work out. That's a highly saturated industry, especially a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I failed three other business concepts. I had a startup that was testing like electromagnetic frequency in houses, basically for people that are concerned with like 5G and RF.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that was a business that I tried and that I got, no interest, essentially very little. The CBD company was a failure. We had to dissolve that. And so I've had my share of failures, and it's tough. It's tough when you throw money. You don't I'm not rich by any means, so throwing $10,000 at something is a huge deal. And then having
Oh
that
yeah.
fail can be quite the shock to the system, and you just got to keep going. Entrepreneurs, it's a spirit. It's not really you either are or you aren't an entrepreneur. You're willing to lay it all out there and try and fail, or you just don't want to take the risk and find something stable, and that's totally subjective and fine. But you got to be resilient if you're going to be an entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. Normally people um, are afraid of doing something outside of the box that's outside of their comfort zone. So they go, like many people like myself, they go out, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and get a day job because it's more secure, right? Um, you people have families, so they don't want to take that big risk and lose everything because it's not only gonna affect them, it's gonna affect pretty much everyone else, their wives, their husbands, their children, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of people just they're too afraid to even kind of try to take that leap of faith and kind of see the results. They automatically think, if I can't do it, or if I do it, I'm not gonna get any positive results. It's all gonna be negative, right? So they're afraid to experience those negative results. But you never know unless you try. I mean, you have to try. That's the only way you learn is from failure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I have two chapters in my book that relate to that. One is the value of
Okay.
being wrong, or the value of failure,
Mm,
because most people are afraid to fail, or we don't want to be wrong. Kind of
right.
if you're wrong, you fail. They kind of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Value in failure. There's a lot of value in trying something. I think Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder, one of his famous quotes is like, um, "I don't regret, if anything, I would have regretted not trying than anything else than failing." For him, it was impossible missing this huge opportunity was greater than him failing. He would rather fail than anything. So there's a
Right.
lot of value and growth in accepting failure as a part of your life. And then another one with entrepreneurs, one of my chapters is the overconfidence, underconfidence battle. Some entrepreneurs they're
Mm,
overconfident to the point where it's detrimental, where their ego gets in the way. But many are underconfident. They might have a great idea, but they just don't have the courage to get out there and do it. So there's definitely a confidence balance. Overconfidence can be detrimental, underconfidence can be detrimental, but finding that balance and accepting that, hey, you might have the best idea, the best product, but you might be 3 years too early to market.
mm-hmm.
uh, Timing might be wrong. You might have, everything might be lined up except one thing might be off. Might not have the capital, might not have the right network, but you don't know until you try. Like you said, you gotta just kind of lay it out there and trust yourself and give it everything you got.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. So what would you say to those who are afraid of entrepreneurship, becoming an entrepreneur, having an idea, but they just don't know how to go about it and putting it out there? Like, what are the first initial steps that anyone has to take in order to move forward?
It's important to realize that it's constantly a process of creation. Before I started this manufacturing company, my buddy started it and he was out of the house, had like a few $1,000s in annual sales, still in his kitchen doing it. And when he started that, I had 3 undergrad business degrees. I had an accounting degree, an economics degree, an international business degree, and I made a lot of money, cultivating before in California and Lake Tahoe. And even knowing all that and having the experience, it was still a constant creation process. Even if you think you know a lot, you'll run into things that you didn't expect, or you have to learn new things. So you have to always be malleable and willing to
Mm,
learn and just be in the creative mindset, because you're going to have to figure things out as you go. Always, there's never really an entrepreneurial endeavor that it's all known. It's not really entrepreneurship. You're usually creating something new in the market, you're offering a new service, you're tweaking something and creating something better. And there's always this constant evolution and creative process that you just have to be open to. And if you're not open to that, you're gonna have a really tough time just breaking through any doors.
right. Yeah, I mean, you have to be willing to take those chances, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's all, pretty much what you have to accept, failure. You have to accept failure in order to achieve that wanted success in life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, because like you said, maybe you take the easy route or not the easy route. It's all tough no matter way. Anyway, you slice
Yeah,
it. If you get a 9 to 5
right.
office job or somebody else, it's going to have its challenges. If you work as an entrepreneur, it's going to have its challenges. But it's important to know that you just got to keep going on. And I think if 2020 taught us, well, it taught us many things. But one
Yeah,
thing it taught us is, in the blink of an eye, you can lose your comfort, you can lose your security, your job, and everything that you might have been able to fall back on isn't going to
mm,
be there anymore. So I think having even like a side hustle, you might have your main gig that helps your family, make sure you can pay the bills and keep your kids nice new clothes and going to school. But the side hustle helps because you never know when your job might get lost or something happens. So I think a lot of
yeah.
us have, especially in Southern California where I grew up, there's definitely an entrepreneurial spirit. People are always hustling, moving, getting things done. And I think it's critical to really make sure you have options available.
Right. Yeah. Totally agree. Um, I myself, I believe in having an extra stream of income. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I'm also heavily involved in trading stocks. Um,
Okay.
I got to tell you, the best stock that I've ever invested in was Tesla.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
we're just saying Tesla, right? And I just didn't buy stocks. I mean, I've had a few stocks. I don't know, maybe year and a half now. I mean, I've sold and then bought more stocks, but they just pretty much just split the stocks, right? So the value
Yep.
went down during last year. So whoever was already investing in those shares, right, were allotted so many of them on top of what they already had. So now
Right.
it went from I think over 1,000 per share to like 200 again after they split because the value of the shares went down. So now it's back up to like over $800, I think, like
Yeah.
830 ish, 840. So you can imagine. I mean, people who've already invested in Tesla and kind of stuck around with it. You have to know when to sell, when to buy, but then you also need to know um, how to hold on just a little bit. You can't be too quick to buy or too quick to sell, right? You have to kind of like take that chance to say, you know what, I might have lost money today, right? $10,000, $20,000, whatever. But I have a good feeling that maybe next week I'll probably make up for it and then some. And that's what I did. And I'm glad that I was the one that took over my own profile, if you will, because before
Sure.
somebody else was managing it, and I was like, you know what, I'm not seeing the results that I want to get, so I took over it, and I'm the only one that does the trading, right?
Nice.
So I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
up on the news, everything that's going on as far as what stocks that I'm invested in. Um, and so far so good. I mean, I see it as a game. I love it. I mean, I wish I would have gotten into it years ago, like 10 years ago. And I feel like I got into it so late. But a lot of people are just like entrepreneurship, right? A lot of people are hesitant to get into stocks because they don't know anything about it, right? All they know or what they think is, no, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because I'm going to lose money. It's a waste of time. They just don't know enough.
Yeah, definitely. And what happens a lot is, someone hears a rumor of a good stock trade, they'll buy
Yeah,
it. It goes down a little bit, they sell. They panic, they sell.
right. They get too
Then they
scared.
say,
Yep.
"Oh, it's just like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's like gambling," and it is gambling if you have no experience or you haven't studied,
Right.
financial markets like that. But it's really psychological. It is, and
Hmm.
and that's what I love about it. I've traded stocks for a long time, not professionally, but now I got into crypto, which the crypto market is just insane to trade.
That's
It's
what I
it's
wanted to get
nonstop,
into
never
it.
sleeps. It
Yeah.
never sleeps. It's 24/7. It's the returns are insane. It keeps me up at night. It's just I can't find a better market. Like after trading crypto for 3 years, it's hard to trade stocks because the market closes at 1 p.m. our time.
Mm.
It opens. There's after hours. The weekends are closed. There's pre-market trading. There's after hours
Hmm.
trading. So all the institutions can make their bets and move the market. And we can't do anything. I've watched. I've had some plays in silver a few months ago that I watched. Markets were closed here. I saw some action happening that I wanted to take advantage of. I couldn't because they were closed. Next day, I woke up, down $4,000 that I couldn't sell. So the whole stock market, the way it is now with traditional exchanges, I don't like the closed hours. You know, it's like going into a business where with crypto, man, it's 24/7. It's always hitting. It doesn't matter where you are, what you know, where you are. As long as there's internet connection, you can get on, you can trade, and you can kind of be hitting it right there.
Right. So
Yeah.
to kind of explain explain what Bitcoin is, how does it work? And I know the biggest question is it too much risk? Is it too risky? Right? How can I how can I cash out? Is there an app that I can get that allows me to invest in Bitcoin?
Yeah, there's a handful of questions there, and you started out with what is Bitcoin, and that's up to interpretation to some extent. I have my own explanation, but essentially it's just digitally secured math. You know, it's if you think about it, 95% of all U.S. dollars are digital; they're not physical. So
Mm,
the large majority of our money is just digital currency. It's numbers and databases. It's zeros and ones and twos and threes, and there's nothing protecting that. You know, if something happens to our monetary system, if the banks go down, you know, the FDIC might insurance you for $250,000. The SIPC might get you for your stocks, but there's nothing really backing that except someone says it has value. And Bitcoin does this with the encrypted methodology where it makes sure that there's no way to just make more out of thin air. It restricts the supply. To me, and I've had people tell me this is like the most genius explanation of Bitcoin, and people tell me this is the stupidest explanation of Bitcoin. It's kind of like putting your money in a digital safe deposit box that people can share. And the more people that store money in that digital safe deposit box, the more value your percent becomes. And anyone can put it in and put it out at any time. But as we have different currencies coming into the Bitcoin market, Japanese yen, you know, U.S. dollars, whatever you can imagine, all the global fiat markets can buy Bitcoin. So you have this global aggregation of fiat money, which they're printing by the trillions every week, just constantly building the base of, you know, and what I interpret as a giant global digital safe deposit box. So it's actually arguably the strongest and the safest method to store your money, possibly. In terms of risk, I think it's a risk to not have some exposure
mm-hmm.
because the way that we're printing money now, we did quantitative easing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and they said quit. Now they're printing money like it's out of style. Really, I think last year they printed the U.S. government, well, Federal Reserve printed, if I'm correct, it's like 25% of all U.S. dollars ever created were created last year. So the way they're printing money from the central banks is just, it's insane.
Oh yeah.
And Bitcoin is one of many hedges, like, you know, gold and silver and other things, bonds and whatnot, to kind of safeguard yourself. So I think it's you know, we've seen it solidify itself last year or two. You know, after the 2017 rally and went, I had my doubts. You know, I bought in around $2,000 and went to $20,000 and went back down to 3. And I'm thinking, well, you know, was that just smoke and mirrors? Was it a pump and dump? Is it gone for good now? And now
Right.
that 2020 came and went, it's solidified itself as it's actually a major financial market and it's here to stay.
Yeah. Didn't Bitcoin go up big time? Was it last week or the week before? I mean, what was the difference as far as if we go back to 2019 to what it's worth now? What's the difference? Like, how much did it go up?
Well, last year at this time, early January, I bought some Bitcoin. I actively trade, so I don't. It's most Bitcoin I bought. I buy and sell, but I have
Okay.
some that I hold long term. But about a year ago, early January, it was trading around $6,500. So, for argument's sake, a year ago it was $6,000. Now it's $36,000. So it's a 600% increase in 1 year. And that's just what I've noticed with this market.
Mm.
It kind of pumps and it kind of dumps, but it always
Yeah.
maintains higher levels. It's growing.
Right. Yeah. The volatility on that is crazy.
It is. And it might be daunting for some. I think, you know, one good rule of thumb is now that, in my opinion, Bitcoin's it's here to stay. Like I said, it's solidified itself as a major asset class, and it's getting more and more attention from all investors. You know, buy when everybody's selling and sell when everyone's buying, so to speak, right?
Right. Right.
And that's an opportunity I had after the 2017-18 rally where I went up a bunch of money and then came down rode it all the way down. early 2019, it was kind of sitting flat. It was just kind of doing nothing around $4,000. No one was talking about it. No one was buying it. It was just kind of real like mellow and kind of forgotten about. And I told my wife, I said, maybe we should buy some right now because it's just kind of like doing nothing. And
Right.
then, we talked about it. It didn't make any moves. And then, 2 months went by and it's at like $13,000. And I'm like, well, it went from 4,000 to 13,000. So when it's boring and when no one's talking about it and when no one's buying it, I think that's the best time to get in. When everyone's talking about it, when it's the news, that's when you should start getting a little bit concerned and maybe thinking about exiting some positions.
Right. Isn't it crazy like how someone who's well known, a politician, an actor, somebody who knows a little bit about stocks, right? Bitcoin or whatever, just the smallest thing that they say, like if they say, you know what, I have a feeling, let's say Bitcoin is it's going to drop, or you shouldn't invest in Bitcoin, or Tesla, um, they're having issues internally, or something's going on, right? And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, that might not be true, or it could be, but who knows? But you don't know for sure, right? All of a sudden, either the value of that stock either goes up or goes way down instantly after that comment is made. That's insane.
Yeah, and there's a handful of high profile figures that we can mention.
Yeah.
Trump before he got banned,
Hmm.
that guy could say something about a corporation and tank it or explode its stock. Elon Musk is another great example.
Yep.
The guy says buy Bitcoin, and 100,000 kids go out and buy Bitcoin immediately. And you don't know how legitimate the information is. Like you said,
Right.
they could be totally factual, could be totally fictional. But there's that following for some people that they can just go ahead and do that. And I think crypto is a good one with Bitcoin, especially. Regulators always making threats. European central banks making threats, Fed making threats. Whoever it might be.
Yeah.
For whatever purpose, maybe they have actual legitimate cases. Maybe they're trying to just move the markets. I don't really know how much manipulation there really is going on, but I'm pretty confident there's a great deal of it. So market movers, they can just go out and say what they want, and they can retract the statement a week or two later, but that doesn't get nearly as much press as
No.
the initial statement does.
Right.
So it's like, oh, they can say something that could, I think, I forget what Trump mentioned a year or so ago, but some stock he kind of cratered. He said something about, I forget what it was, but he basically cratered a stock. Or Elon Musk said something about trading at 420 like a year or two ago, and then it just spiked the stock. And they could have a statement later saying, "Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that," but nobody
Yeah.
hears about it. Nobody cares. So
Yeah.
a
But you
lot,
know
a lot
what?
of media manipulation, actually.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's why they do it.
Yeah.
Right? They're looking at it one day like, man, okay, it's been dropping for a week now. What can I think about? What can I say to the public that'll help the stock go up, right? The value of the stock.
Yeah. Well, a good one
Because,
for crypto was, have you heard of the coin Ripple? I'm assuming there's one of the top tokens is called Ripple. And
yeah,
about a month ago, I forget his name, but the head of the SEC, the main guy, on his last day on his way out of the office, he's like, "Oh, by the way, we're sending a lawsuit to Ripple for selling an unsecured security, essentially, like not registering a security and selling it illegally." And it just cratered the whole Ripple price. And it's just like kind of odd how it's like the last day he's in office in the SEC, he throws his bombshell out and then just walk away. And it's like, wow, you just cratered the price. And I'm thinking that's just seems so suspicious.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know if it's been legit, but it just seemed like odd timing.
right. I mean, it's never the right time. It's only the right time for those individuals that are actually saying those things, right? Um,
Yeah.
I mean, one would say, for their own benefit, for their own personal gain. Um, I mean, it's possible. I mean, there are people out there who do that, who do things like that to kind of set themselves up for success. But then again, you do have people out there who maybe mistakenly says one thing and didn't mean to, but it is what
Yeah.
it is. I wanted to ask you, we had that big recession back in 2008. You remember that one, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, in your opinion, when do you think the next recession is going to hit? Because, I mean, we're long overdue. They say usually every 10, 11 years. We
Yeah, they
usually
do.
get
Yeah.
like a recession, whether it's a real bad one or uh, not as bad as the other ones. But I think from what we've been experiencing, we with what's been going on, COVID, uh, politically, I think this next one is going to be way worse than 2008. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I'm no economist, but yeah, there's something called the 90-year super cycle, and we're kind of at the end of it. And those 90-year super cycles, when they come down hard. And that was, from my understanding, what the Great Depression was. And we're about 90 years out from that. And
Hmm.
like you said, with COVID, to me, it's mind-boggling, all the economic damage and hardship and people that are in foreclosure. I mean, we've lost, I think it was 110,000 restaurants permanently in the United States already shut down. Uh,
Hmm.
One would think that the markets would already be cratering, but I think if we learned anything this year, is also that the Fed can bail out the markets, bail out Wall Street while Main Street, barely survives. So I mean, I think there's a large recession around the corner, but the way that they're printing money, the way that they're propping the economy up, that it's kind of when they want to, in my opinion. And to me, it seems like the Federal Reserve, in my opinion, they're the ultimate pump and dumpers. They can manipulate the entire economy with interest rates, with the money supply. They can constrict it, they can contract it, they can expand it.
Hmm.
And it seems like they have this method where they, when they unwind their balance sheet, so to speak, they're essentially selling their assets off. And they usually do that when prices are high, when we're, a boom period and everything's gone up in value. And then they buy it up on the cheap. When things are at their worst, they say, oh, we have to expand our balance sheet, and they'll just gobble up assets. So it almost seems like to me they're perceived as this control factor, this hedge against calamity. But at the same time, it's almost like they sure seem to be taking advantage of the calamities as well. Uh, so when they want to turn the faucet off, so to speak, I think everyone's hurting. But they could keep the money pumping for years, and it might be perpetual. Who knows? I mean, basic economic theory says we're long overdue, like you said, but at the same time,
Right.
there's a detachment from the markets and from what people are experiencing. So it's really hard to tell.
Now, what would you say to those who have lost their businesses during this whole ordeal, and those entrepreneurs or those people who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? How should they react, and how should they, um, what should they do moving forward? Should they should they hold off a little bit, or should they just continue trying to make their dream come true and start their own business, or should they? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's obviously a tough question because it's so situational and it depends on the person. But I think if you look back at the like 08, 09, when we had the big crashes, um, a lot of times the greatest innovation is born out of chaos. Really, it's kind of like a creative destructive type of deal. And you find that when these big shocks to the system happen, people get really creative. It's kind of like a do or die type situation.
Right.
And I think look for opportunity, because if you look at a lot of the large companies now, the Airbnb, the Ubers, I mean, they started almost out of that chaos. And there's always an opportunity. And every time there's this massive shock, we haven't had a recession yet, so to speak, but there's been obviously, our economy's been turned upside down with restaurants and movie theaters shutting down, and there's innovation everywhere. So if you're willing to have an open mind and you're willing to look
Hmm.
for loopholes and look for new ideas and be creative and have that innovative perspective, I think there's a number of opportunities out there. The way things are changing so quickly, I think it might be a mistake to look at what has worked in the past and try to apply it to the future, because things are
Hmm.
just moving at breakneck speed now. We've taken the entire 9 to 5 office environment and turned it into interfacing with computers. That
Right.
right there was a giant, just a whole revolution. So looking at the world now and in the future through past based lenses, so to speak, might be debilitating. But if you're looking for opportunities, I think there's going to be an abundant amount. It's just a matter of your timing, your perspective, and then your availability just to kind of go try new things out.
Right. Yeah. That. I mean, you made some good points. Um, yeah. I mean, it's hard to make any decision. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen
No, and
tomorrow or the next day.
no, and me and my wife, we don't have any kids, so that's a big relief. relief. And we obviously have friends that have kids, and we see just the struggles they have to deal with just homeschooling and things like that. And if you
Oh
look
yeah.
at the transformation there, what's happened, parents all of a sudden just in the last year, people used to go to work 9 to 5, check in, check out. Kids would go to school, everything was essentially normal. Now parents are staying at home, they have to teach their kids, they have to balance and juggle all these things. I'm sure it's frustrating and very challenging, but out of that, tumultuous environment, people will create things that help and create convenience and make it so much better. But um, it can't be easy for many people. I'm fortunate enough to have a job, and my wife has a job, and we don't have much debt. But many people do right now, and we really wish that there's a faster solution to this whole COVID thing. But 1 month turned into 3 months, turned into 6 months, turns into a year. It's like, how long are we going to push this out for? So hopefully we can figure this out soon.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a scary environment. It's a bit scary living in today's age with everything that's been going on. You know, I mean, we just don't know what to expect, right?
No, and everything's moving so fast right now. I mean, the political scene is totally in disarray.
Yeah.
Economically, we don't know what we can count on. We don't know, how comfortable we can get. Businesses open up a little bit and they have to shut back down. I think down in SoCal, like in Orange County, is one of the worst places with restrictions right now. I went down there 3 times last year just to,
Mm-hmm.
I had to cancel a trip to Japan, had to cancel a trip to Greece. So we did local trips, and we went, to San Clemente and down by the beaches and Pismo Beach and whatnot. But 1 week you go down there, restaurants are open, then a month later they're all closed back down. So how can anybody plan for a situation that's as just differentiating as that? Like, what do you do? How do you prepare?
Yeah. You can't. You can't.
No,
Like today, I
you
was like, hey,
can't.
yeah. Like today, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and Google, because Google answers everything, right? You have a question, you go Google it, you find it, boom, you're there. Um, so I'm like, you know what? I'm curious to find out if there's anything or a restaurant that's open that has dine-in. I don't care if I have to drive 30 minutes, 45 minutes. If it's not in my area where I live, I just want to sit down in a restaurant, feel normal, at least for that hour
Yeah,
or hour, however much time I'm spending there, just to enjoy myself and kind of release some of that stress, right?
yeah.
I mean, that's what we crave. That's what we want. We want some type of feeling of normalcy again.
Yeah, and not have a little bit of
Yeah.
control. I mean, because
Hmm.
things are spinning out of, our control as individuals is limited. We think we have more control than we do, but we don't. But then over the past year, any little shred of control we've had to give away. Whether our business can open or not, whether we have to wear a face mask or not. I mean, in some instances, at the beginning, it was, can I go to work? Do I have to have my pass to get me out of my house? I mean, I remember seeing videos of guys
Yep.
down in Southern California surfing last April, and the Coast Guard was like tracking them down and arresting them for being on their paddleboard out in the ocean
Yeah.
I think it was Malibu or something like that. It's just like, you want to get a little bit of peace. You want to go out and exercise, and you feel like you're breaking the law or you're a bad person for it. It's just so strange and frustrating at the same time. It's like, what do you do?
Yeah. Um, I mean, the only thing we can do is just stay optimistic, right? Stay
Yeah,
positive, keep moving forward, just being there for our family, our loved ones, and just keep chugging along. Uh, yeah, I mean, with this vaccine coming out and everything like that, it's kind of, I'm on the fence with that as far as receiving the vaccine or not. But then at the same time, I'm conflicted. Uh, Knock on wood, I don't know myself if I've gotten COVID the whole time. I mean, I just don't. I'm not that lucky, right? So I'm hoping that I was asymptomatic and got it, and then have some type of antibodies to where I'm good, right? But
yeah.
I mean, then again, I could have been that lucky, right? And then, um, let's say I get the vaccine, the shot, right? And then all of a sudden I get real sick and I die from it. It's kind of like, well, that was a waste of time, right? You should have just, you shouldn't have gotten the vaccine. You probably would have still been alive.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'm
it's
like,
tough,
yeah,
we want to trust the science and the vaccines, but at the same time, it's you rush something like that out, so many millions of doses. I mean, I've heard numerous stories of side effects, people with convulsions
mm.
and all kinds of issues.
Oh
Whether or not
yeah,
I can verify them is one thing, but I mean, I've seen numerous accounts, and I don't necessarily want it. I'm pretty sure I had COVID. I had a handful of employees get COVID, and kind of went through our work and took out a few of us. Everyone recovered completely. I had mild sinus infection like symptoms for 2 or 3 days. Lost my taste for 10 days. Fully recovered. That was over a month ago. Yeah, if I have antibodies, I want to know, and I don't want to have the
Yeah.
vaccine. It's like, well, I have antibodies. Let my body do its job, my immune system do its best, and then let me just kind of live my life. I don't want to get an injection if I don't want an injection, you know?
Right. Yeah. There's already people that believe, oh, don't believe in actually having their children get vaccinated. But for children, for them to go to school, to start school, they have to have a certain number of vaccines beforehand, or else they can't enter or apply to that school.
Yeah,
Um,
and when I went to college, they made me get my MMR vaccine. You know, I went back into college at 25. I did 10 years of college. I got a bunch of degrees. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford that. But yeah, I went back in, and they were like, "Do you have your vaccine,
mhm.
history?" I'm like, "No, I'm like 27 years old. I don't have any of that." I couldn't find it, so I had to get my MMR vaccine just to go to college. And I
Right.
think obviously some vaccinations are, like when I was a kid, I think we're probably the same age, give or take 5, 10 years. But 80s and 90s, we had like a handful of vaccines, like six, maybe 10. And I'm sure
Oh
there's
yeah.
a foundational element that it's very needed. But I think now we're getting close to like 150 vaccines by the time kids are like 7 or 8, something ridiculous like that. It's like, do we need all those? Like, I'm fine. I had like 7 when I was a kid. Do we need 100 more? Like, really?
Right. Yeah, I know. I must have gotten the same vaccine over and over again, maybe 5 or 6 times each. Growing up, I've got my number of shots. I think my parents might still have the immunization card, right? The record with the list of everything that you've gotten from a baby all the way till, I don't know, teenage years. But then joining the military,
Yeah.
I must have gotten like maybe 10, 15 shots extra through the course of me being in the military. So I don't know. It's a possibility that I could have gotten shots that I've already, a vaccine that I've gotten before in the past, or,
Sure.
they really don't tell you. So it's crazy. But yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with that, like I was saying about COVID and the vaccine. But I'm trying to see or observe as far as how everyone else reacts to it, and if they do come out with a better version, then maybe I might just be open to getting it. But right now, I'm like, nah. I'll
Yeah.
wait. I'll wait.
And there's like dozens of different manufacturers. So like from what I heard, like 80 plus different vaccine manufacturers. So let it
Mm,
all play out. Me and my wife, we love to travel. That's kind of like our number one thing to do is travel because we can afford it. Fortunately, we have the time and the just the availability. But if I have to get my vaccine to travel out of the country and show my card everywhere I go, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna, travel is
mm,
like my number one passion. I'm not gonna not travel, but it's like I want it to be vetted. I want to know that it's safe. I want to have a few years of actual trial and error in the market, and I don't want to be the error. I want to be one that these guys know how to make a vaccine and those guys don't, and
yeah.
I want to take the right one because I've heard some pretty bad horror stories, even before COVID about vaccinations. And I'm not an anti-vax. Like I said, I believe there's a certain dozen or 2 dozen that are very valuable and beneficial, but I don't think we need all the ones we're getting. And just the way that they rolled out this COVID one, for essentially a cold virus, then the whole world has to get vaccinated in a year. It seems a little bit dramatic to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So let's get back to your book real quick for a second, because I know
sure.
we're getting a little bit, over an hour right now. I don't want to uh, keep you on here, and I'm pretty sure you have things to do. So let's kind of like do a summary of your book, what it's about, who you feel your audience is, who would pretty much be more attracted to or open to reading your book.
Cool. Absolutely. Yeah. So once again, my book is called Founder's Footing. It's essentially 30 lessons on self-leadership and what I call culture sculpture,
Mm,
which to me is self-explanatory, but other people it's not. And so if you're an entrepreneur, a founder, a team leader, in business and organization, or even, as a leader of a household. These are all really applicable concepts. I start off, a lot of it's about ontology, which is the study of being, like who we are being in the present moment. So a lot of it's based in philosophy, metaphysics, and ontology. And it's about just how to be present in conversations, how to literally engage authentically with people versus drifting in and out of conversations. Like we mentioned before, the value of being wrong, the value of sticking to your word, just kind of those macro level soft skills that are so easily overlooked. Anybody in a leadership position or anybody who wants to better their lives, especially entrepreneurs who are building a team, anybody can benefit from it. There's just so many good concepts, and they're all short. It's only 40,000 words, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's really a 5-6 hour read if you wanted to just grab it and burn through it. And each chapter lesson's only about 5 to 8 minutes. So you can kind of burn through chapters pretty quickly. And I made them really condensed and nice, and they just have this really sweet and succinct message and then ways to apply them. So anybody who, especially entrepreneurs who don't know how to go about building a business or leading a team should be looking into this book. Okay. Anybody who has some self-improvement they want to do about how to keep your word to yourself, how to communicate better with people that you're close to, would be interested in this book. And anybody in a management or organizational leadership role could value from this book as well.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm probably going to get that book. Let me know. We'll keep in touch, right? Yeah. When it comes out, send me the link where we can, myself and everybody else can go ahead and get that book.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll help you out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I believe it's going to be a great read. And I think this is a book that entrepreneurs who are, heavily successful at the moment, and those entrepreneurs who haven't even started yet or think about getting into entrepreneurship, I think they should get that book.
Yeah, it's highly beneficial. The number side of the businesses are easy. Does it check out 1 + 1 = 2? Do you have money left over for profit? But what we overlook so many times is who we're being, how we're being, how our actions and words affect other people, how to build strong teams, and just make sure that there's a good, strong foundation for the business. So as things come up, because things always go awry. I think it was Eisenhower who said something about planning being indispensable, but plans always change. It's like they're at one hand they're very, very valuable, but they're also essentially useless. But this gives you a foundation for your plan. So when things do change and go awry, you have a strong core team that can help manage everything that goes good and bad with entrepreneurship and team leading.
Yeah, that's good points. Yeah, I can't. So is that quote in the book?
No, that's one that I didn't use, but
okay.
I throw it in there while I'm doing final editing. It's something like it's like planning is indispensable, but all plans are useless. I think that's one of his quotes.
Yeah.
I've worked with business partners before that they don't do business plans. They like to shoot from the hip, and they kind of like they're great at sales and they're great at creative processes, but when it comes to long-term planning and goal setting, they just don't really like it. And I've seen how that can debilitate because you don't have a direction, right? It's like a boat with no rudder. But at the same time, like over planning can lead you to paralysis where you don't even move forward because you want it all perfect, and it's never perfect. So there's that balance again where you have to find the confidence versus the underconfidence and make sure that you have it all balanced out and you're able to move forward with certainty and then deal with uncertainty as it comes, because that's always inevitable.
Right, for sure. All right. Yeah. So that was a lot of content, a lot of information. We talked about some good stuff. Also, when that book does come out, and I will get it, I will read it. I would like to have you back on the show if you don't mind.
Yeah, I love it. I'd appreciate it.
And then we could talk about your book and kind of dive into it. Kind of look at some of the quotes or information that you have in your book, and we can kind of go in depth, talk about it, and have those questions answered.
Yeah. There's a lot of good points in there and concepts, and like I said, they're all short and sweet, so it's an easy, quick read, nothing too complicated. But so far, a lot of great feedback, and I can't wait to get it released.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. I want to thank Chris Dages for coming on the show, the S&M podcast show. That is, I'm your host, Ricky Romance. Again, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to come out and talk to me today. We will be back on for sure at another episode once that book comes out. So I'm excited about that.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed my time thoroughly.
All right, you take it easy.
Thanks, you too.
All right.
Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. S&M.